Hi, everybody. Thank you so much for being here today for this month's Stories from the Heart. We're so glad to have you here and excited to be learning from Tarryn Ryan today. Just a couple of quick housekeeping notes and announcements. First of all, we are so happy you're all here, and we want to keep this a really good space for learning together. So we're going to drop some general guidelines and protocols for ELP gatherings in the chat. And we look forward to everybody making this a kind and welcoming space. And I'd also like to introduce what ELP is if you are not familiar with us or our program. So the Endangered Languages Project is a nonprofit organization supporting community-led language revitalization around the world. We were founded in 2012, and our team now includes folks all over the world. And one of our programs is the annual Ready to Revitalize course, which is a project-based learning online course in language revitalization. Every year, a group of 20 incredible language champions from all over the world come together, and over a couple of months, they develop plans for revitalization projects in their own communities and learn from each other about general language revitalization work, as well as project planning, grant writing, organizational development, all of the other things that go into long-term sustainability of language revitalization work. Stories from the Heart is our monthly talk series featuring alumni of Ready to Revitalize, sharing about some of the incredible programs they are leading in their communities to strengthen and sustain their languages. And this month, we are so fortunate to be joined by Tarryn Ryan, who's going to be talking to us about the program that she runs in her community. And I'm going to hand it over to her without much more announcement. Just a quick note, Tarryn will be beginning in Te Reo Māori, so don't worry if you don't understand it first. She will then continue in English. So everybody, please give a very warm welcome to Tarryn. Thanks for being here.
Ngā mihi ana, tēnā koutou katoa. I te tīmata he karakia, whakataka te hau ki te uru, whakataka te hau ki te tonga, kia mā kina ki uta, kia mā taratara ki tai, e hi ake ana te atākura, he tio, he huka, he hauhu, ti hei mauriora. Tuatahi ki rangi nui ki papa atu ānuku tēnā kōrua, ki ngā kai whakarite, tēnā koutou katoa i te whakarite o tēnei kaupapa rangatira, ki ngā manuhiri, ki ngā watches o te presentation, ngā mihi nui ki a koutou i te taimai. Ko wai au, ko Tarryn Ryan ahau, no Motu Pōwhe, ko ngā puhi, ko ngai tahu o ku iwi, tēnā koutou katoa. Hi, everybody. My name's Tarryn. Hopefully, I've just started sharing my screen, so hopefully everybody can see it. I am from Aotearoa, New Zealand, and I'm here today to talk to you about the kaupapa that I'm a part of here in Ōtautahi, Christchurch, called Kōrero ki Ōtautahi. So just a little bit of an explanation of how I started, just so you're not wondering what I was just saying to you all. I started us off with a karakia, and the karakia is to bring us all into the same wairua, into the same space for this talk we're going to have today. And then I went to a mihi just to acknowledge first Rangi Nui and Papa Atuanuku, Sky Father and Earth Mother, and to acknowledge the organisers of this kaupapa, this event, and to acknowledge all of you also. And then following that, I did my pepeha, which is a introduction, a traditional way that tangata Māori people introduce themselves by acknowledging where they come from, their iwi or tribes or nations, as others might call them. So I'm of Kaitahu and Ngāpuhi. Those areas are at the very bottom and the very top of Aotearoa, New Zealand. So yes, thank you so much for all being here today. I really appreciate you taking the time to come along and listen, especially those who are coming at ungodly times. I was talking with Anna earlier and saying that I haven't had the opportunity to make one of these kaupapa yet because they're quite often at 4 or 5 o'clock in the morning, being that they're on the other side of the world. So I appreciate those of you who are at midnight or at a really early time for coming out today. So, kōrero ki Ōtautahi. I'm going to just change us over to our next slide, which hopefully my computer's going to let me do. One moment. Oh, technology. There we go. So, where did we start? Back in 2020, I decided that it was time for me to really knuckle down and put some effort into learning the language of my ancestors. So I grew up here in Aotearoa, but due to colonization, the majority of Māori people grew up with English as their first language. And although I had some exposure to it through school, it was pretty limited. And when I became pregnant with my son in 2019, I decided that was the time that I needed to really make sure that I concentrated on learning the language so that he was able to grow up with our Indigenous reo and not have to grow up without it like I did. And so I was fortunate enough to go to Te Wānanga o Aotearoa. It's a tertiary institute here in New Zealand that offers free courses, mainly around the reclamation of traditional kaupapa. That's why it started. And their classes are free. And so as a new mum, this was the perfect opportunity for me. And so I started going to a night class. It was only 3 hours a week, even though it was technically classed as a full-time course. So there was a lot of self-driven study that you had to do outside of class. And I found that while I was learning a lot and enjoyed the classes, when I was coming home, I had no one to use my reo with. My baby, he was just small. He was 3 months old when I started there. And so because I wasn't working, because I wasn't part of a larger community that was using this language out there in the world, that I only had those 3 hours to rely on where I could use it. And that wasn't really helpful for helping me retain or learn or really use the language conversationally. So I started talking about that to some of my classmates and found that there were a number of them that were in the same situation, whether or not they were Māori or Pākehā, so non-Māori people. There were a lot of us that didn't have a community that we could use what we were learning with. And so we decided to do something about that. And 6 or 8 of us, we started meeting up very casually or like very informally. And we would go to cafes, or we would go to the pub or to the library, or basically anywhere that we would usually go. And we would practice what we'd been learning. And so that was a really good way for us to reinforce what we'd been learning, but do it while we were just doing the normal things that we would do in our everyday life. So there's a selection of some photos there of some of the things that we were doing. And I asked at the beginning, is one of those pictures in a video store? And it is a video or DVD store, but it also has cinemas in there, and we'd all gone to watch a Te Reo Māori movie together in that picture. And as you can see, we're outside at one because we all had gone for a walk together. And you see that people have brought their children and their dogs, and you can see we're having beers as well. So it's very relaxed, and it was a very kind of non-threatening way, a very casual way for people to be able to use what they had and grow and really continue their learning outside of the classroom. And then at the beginning of 2022, so I'd been learning in a formal setting for 2 years at that point. I decided that the classes and the structure wasn't really working for me. I found that 3 hours wasn't enough, and I needed more. And so the thing that kind of was the catalyst for that was that I attended an immersion week of learning. And so it was I was very out of my depth when I went to that first one. We call them Kōrero. And I went along, you stay in this place for 5 days around other people that are learning, and they encourage you to only use Te Reo Māori, and you have lessons, and there's a lot of singing, and you learn about protocols or tikanga alongside of that. And you're exhausted at the end of that week. But at the end of that week, I realized I'd learned so much more in such a short period of time that I thought this is actually going to be better for me now. And I think this is the next stage of how I'm going to learn. And so I made the decision from that point that if I ever saw that there were any other kōrero that were going to be happening, that I would just sign up for all of them. And I think in the 2022, I went to 4 in that year, and it really reinforced that being in the typical classroom setting wasn't the right place for my learning. But the thing that happened, because I was no longer in those formal classes, I still wanted to continue seeing my friends that I'd been meeting with informally for those groups out in the world. And so we decided, this little group that we had on Facebook, that I think probably by that point had maybe a dozen people on it, we decided to open it up to anyone that might want to join. And so we just said to everybody in there, if there's people that you know that would like to come along to these things, add them to the group. And slowly over the next year, we probably grew to about 100 people. And I was like, whoa, 100 people. That's like, I was quite like, I can't believe 100 people want to join us to go to the pub to speak Te Reo Māori. And I was really kind of like, encouraged, I think is the right word. I was encouraged by the fact that there were people that were like, more people like me that wanted to continue growing their learning in such a normal way, doing these normal things. And so that was where Kōrero ki Ōtautahi like officially started. We called it Kōrero ki Ōtautahi at the time, at the beginning of that 2022. And it wasn't really something that I thought was going to go further than that. It was just 100 people who would meet up. I mean, we didn't all meet up at once, don't get me wrong. People would come along to what they were available for or the things that interested them. And we would continue meeting up in that informal way. And so after that, we kind of went along. There wasn't a huge amount of change. People kept slowly adding more and more people into the group. And then in 2023, we decided towards the end of the year, excuse me, we decided to host a hikoi, or excuse me, a parade to celebrate Te Reo Māori. So every year here in Aotearoa, we have Te Wiki o Te Reo Māori, which is Māori Language Week. And it's a week-long celebration or opportunity for people to celebrate our reo rangatira. And so we had this idea of having a parade. And I always like to joke amongst my friends that I'm an ideas man, because I have all of these ideas, and I often don't realize what I need to achieve those certain things. And so that was, the hikoi was one of those things. And I said, let's have this hikoi, but I didn't realize the logistical side of what that meant. And so I discovered what that meant, and people started saying things like liability insurance and traffic control. And I was like, ooh, that sounds a bit scary. I'm not sure if I want to do that. And after a bit of toing and froing, we were told if we kept it under a number of people that we didn't have to do all of those things. And so in that first year, we had our parade. I think it was about 200 people. A school came along and they did a performance. They sung some songs. They did kapahaka. And it was a really cool first experience to do that. And I thought, I want to do that again, but I want it to be bigger. And I don't understand why me, this random mum who's trying to get her master's, should be responsible for worrying about things like liability insurance. And so that was kind of the moment that I decided to become a real annoyance to the Christchurch City Council. And I started having regular meetings with them and saying, like, why isn't this something that you are taking more responsibility for, given that this is our national language? It's the first language of this land. But it's been the start of a really good relationship. So I'll come back to that in a minute. But following the success of that little small parade that we had, we grew a little bit more in numbers. And in amongst all of the things that I'd been going along to and attending, I'd been meeting more and more people. And I'd met a woman here in Christchurch, my dear friend Alicia, and she has her own business, and she teaches Te Reo Māori. And we realised that her and I were quite aligned with the things that we wanted for our language here in Christchurch. And so we said, hey, why don't we get a space together where we can both have our you can run your classes, I can run my community events, and we can share the space and it'll be great. Again, I think both of us there not realizing all of the logistical sides of things, but we had this idea, we leaned into it, and Te Awa Whiria, our space, was born. The name Te Awa Whiria is in reference to braided rivers, which is a special or quite unique kind of river that we have here in the South Island of New Zealand. And it's also in reference to Alicia's whakapapa, her genealogy. She's from a place called Whanganui, which is a river town. The people there are very connected to their awa. And also whiria is in reference to weaving together, as the rivers do, but it's also the weaving together of kaupapa Māori, of language, of things that are important to growing and strengthening our culture. And so I've got a selection of photos there from some different kaupapa that we've had there. One of them is from our opening, which was a really beautiful, beautiful afternoon. There's another one there with wahine women who had come along to learn about a something called pao that we as Māori do. And there's another one there from a games night. And then another one there from, we were doing some mahi toi there. We were creating some jewelry in that picture. So the space has become, it's become the centre or our home of our kaupapa, and it's still developing of how we use it. But Alicia runs classes there. People within our community can rent the space out to use it for their own kaupapa, and we're continuing to grow and use that space for supporting our kaupapa. Now, I'm just going to talk a bit about collaborations because I think they have been the thing that have been probably the most important for growing kōrero ki Ōtautahi as a kaupapa. Actually, one note I should probably add, after the opening of Te Awawhiria, our group grew exponentially. We went from 200 people, I think, to 500 people overnight because a local news outlet did a story about our opening. And then in the 6 months that followed, we doubled in size again to 1,000 people. And I think we're now at around 1,200 people. So it's been growing and growing and growing. Realizing that there are so many people out there that want to support this work and they want to support our language. So that has been really encouraging as well. So collaboration, as I said, it has been one of the things that has been essential for our organisation. So after we got our space Te Awawhiria and we grew in number so much, we realised that in order to continue doing the mahi that we were doing, we were going to need funding. And the majority of people that offered funding here in Christchurch or in New Zealand as well, they required you to be a legal entity. And again, this was something I knew nothing about. But thankfully, again, something I like to joke about is that I have no shame. And so I just started asking people, anybody that I trusted or anybody that I thought was knowledgeable, for advice on how you start a charitable trust, because we were never going to be a business. We're not here to make money. We're here to support our reo. And so a charity seemed like the best path for us to take. And so over the next 6 months after opening Te Awawhiria, that's what we did. We knuckled down. I found some people that knew about policy, that knew where we could get help. I looked for free legal clinics, and I went to the Christchurch City Council because they have funding people that can help answer those kinds of questions. And so pretty much at no cost, because we had no money, I was able to pull together all of the things that we needed with the help of some of the other people within our group. We wrote a deed, a trust deed, which again was like something that was completely outside of my knowledge base. We wrote a trust deed, and we got all of these things set up, and we applied to be a charitable trust. And we got that at the beginning of 2025, I want to say. I feel like I could be fact-checked on that. I'm pretty sure it was 2025. And it really opened up a whole load of other doors for us. It meant that we could apply for large amounts of funding, and it's made it possible for us to really think about what we want in terms of the end goal for our kaupapa. And so that was, I think, when we finally decided, what the end goal was, and the end goal is to make Christchurch a bilingual city. And so that helped shift our mindset in terms of how we support speakers and the things that we need from the city, and from the other members of the community in the city, how we move forward to achieve that goal. And so coming back to the collaborations thing, in order to do all of those things and be successful and not have to constantly battle, which the first couple of years of this kaupapa had to do, we started reaching out to other people to support. I'm really keen on the idea of, I don't want to reinvent the wheel. So if someone says, hey, we could do this thing, if there's someone out in the community that's already doing that, then I'll reach out to them and say, hey, how can we work together? Or how can we support you? Or how can we figure this out so that we can make this work for everybody? That included reaching out to other educators. So given that I was still only pretty fresh in learning my language, I wasn't the most knowledgeable person. So I was reaching out to people who had more knowledge than I did, people that were more knowledgeable speakers than I was, or had skills in different parts of making our kaupapa successful. We connected with Te Tautawhiri o Te Reo Māori, which is the national language, ministry. I don't think that's the right word, but they support our reo nationally. And I reached out to local businesses that were either Māori owned or that had shown that they support the growth and the use of te reo Māori. And in that way, it has enabled us to connect with other people that are willing to support us, and then we can show support by going along and using their service, or eating in their cafe, or that way. It's like a circular economy, I guess, but for language around the city. And so it's been really cool to see the way the kaupapa has grown. Here's again a few more pictures of some of the things that we have been doing. As I said, we've grown exponentially. There's now about 1,200 people within our community, and it means the things that we're doing, that we're offering, are growing as well. We have language events, and we have waiata groups, and we, in one of the pictures there, where what is the word I'm looking for? We worked together, I can't think of the word, with Conservation Volunteers New Zealand, and we organised a planting event. So for us as tangata Māori, we are the whenua, the land is something that's very integral or important, a huge part of who we are. And so it made sense for us to collaborate, that's the word I was looking for, collaborate with an organisation that cares for our whenua. And it brought together the conservation volunteers as well as reo Māori speakers and introduced them to each other. And so the conservation people were able to learn some te reo Māori, and our reo speakers were able to learn more about conservation. And that's become an ongoing thing. We usually collaborate with them a couple of times a year to have these events. There's another one there, a local business. You see a photo of us on a waka. It's called the Waka on Avon, and it's a kaupapa or business that's right in the middle of our city here. And that we're able to support this local business. We're all te reo Māori speakers, and we're able to do it and learn about the traditional art or traditional skill of using a waka. And so it's been really amazing seeing the way different things have grown across the city. Just going to move to our next slide here. And this is one of the things that I feel like has been really something I've been really proud of is for Te Wiki o Te Reo Māori for the past 2 years. We've had a week-long Te Reo Māori Film Festival called Mātaki Mai. I don't know if you can see my t-shirt, but I'm also wearing a t-shirt like a bit of a nerd because I think it's cool. But one of our reo speakers who is not Māori, she's Pākehā, but grew up here in New Zealand, she said, I've got graphic design skills. I could help you design some posters. And so in the top corner, you can see the first iteration of Mātaki Mai, and she designed this amazing poster. And so the following year, we asked her, can you design us another poster, which she did again. Purple somehow became our color, and we really leaned into it. And then as you can see, we've got these really cool vests, which I just picked up this week or last week now, which I'm nerding out about because it's got our name on it. And so people are going to be able to really start visibly seeing who we are. And they were made by another local business called Ōtautahi Apparel, who we've collaborated with in the past. And our film festival is held at that little cinema that I mentioned right back at the start of my kōrero, another business that has really supported us. And this year we also launched our website. Our community has said, we often get, I miss out on the events because I don't really do social media. And social media has largely been where we've been, but we decided we're going to try and start moving away from social media. And so we had a website built. And all of these things were only made possible because we became a charitable trust and because we were able to apply for funding and because we collaborated. And so I think that's the point I'm trying to make when I'm talking about all those kinds of things is that don't struggle through it alone. There are always people out there that are willing to help, that are willing to offer their time, that are willing to support. So just find those good people. I don't want to bore you all and tire you all out by talking for the whole hour, because I'd love to wānanga a little bit to kōrero and to hear your questions. So I'm going to finish up on this slide here. On what's next for us and what's next for anyone else out there that has a community kaupapa that is trying to revitalize their own reo. So haere tonu, you just have to keep going. It's been, it hasn't always been easy, particularly because I've felt quite isolated doing this mahi at times. Finding the ELP community has been an amazing thing for me, and meeting other people around the world in similar situations, doing this mahi to revitalize their own Indigenous languages has been amazing. Being able to have conversations and someone knows exactly what you're talking about, but they're in Canada, I see you there, Tamara, or they're in Ireland. Thank you, Alexandra, although I know you're in Spain at the moment. People from all over the world that are having the same struggles, and being able to talk those things out with other people is it's really helpful. Strategize. I didn't think I'd ever be excited about strategizing, but I really am. And I'm, as part of having a charitable trust, I now have board of trustees, and they're amazing. They're 5 people that I trust so much to have and to do the best for our community of reo speakers. And they're all so knowledgeable, and they bring their own strengths to the table, and being able to strategize and give them all my ideas and them help me figure out how to make those ideas a reality is really, it's so awesome. And that's part of building the capacity. So building capacity having other people around that can support you to do the things that you want to do, but also building the capacity for your community as well. So giving them more opportunities to do different things is really important. And then the final thing that I want to say is keep reflecting. One thing that I realized after we became a charitable trust, and after we'd opened our space, and after we'd done a whole bunch of things, is I realized we'd actually lost sight of why we started. And the reason why we started was so that we could hold these events for people to kōrero out in public. And because I'd been so tied down with figuring out how to make us a charitable trust and offer bigger and better things, I'd actually run out of time to organize those small conversation groups, which made me feel really sad. So having that opportunity to reflect made me realize, okay, we need to change something about what we're doing so that we can get back to doing those things, lock those things in, because they're what's important and they're what is going to help us achieve our goal. So I think I'm going to finish there. Ngā mihi nui kia koutou. Thank you so much for listening. And I really hope that you've got questions, and I'm going to stop sharing my screen. And yeah, thank you all very much. Yeah, that's me.
Thank you so much, Tarryn. That was incredible. I loved every minute of that. I think we all learned a lot. So I suspect there's going to be some questions. Anybody who has questions or would like to just share encouragement for Tarryn, please drop it in the chat, or you can raise your hands if you like to ask out loud.
Hello, hello.
Yeah, Irvin, go ahead.
Yeah, thank you very much, and I really appreciate the opportunity to be here again once more and to see you wonderful ones that is really doing the best. I appreciate to hear the story about your language, Terry. It's a great, amazing to understand really how you're doing so much. And for me, it's not a question, but I want to ask you, how do you feel working with parents' leadership in your Revitalizing Language project? Are they doing well in participating with their families? Because in my case here, in the Rama language, Nicaragua here, I have some parents that always be with their children to learn the Rama language too. Is there any experience about that?
Yeah, I think here in New Zealand, for Te Reo Māori, that's something that's really encouraged as being like the main thing that's going to help return Te Reo Māori generationally. So like first reclaiming it in the home. So parents, children, grandparents, for example. There's somebody said once, I don't actually know who said it first, but that it only takes one generation to lose a language, but 3 to reclaim it. And because of that, it is something that is really encouraged here in Aotearoa, that people learn in the home with whānau members. So one thing that we have here is called Kohanga Reo, which is an immersion childcare space, for lack of a better word. And part of sending your children there is that as a parent, you have to commit to also growing your language as well, so that your children will be learning when they're at childcare, and then when they come home, they're not just switching back to English, that they can continue using that language at home as well. So it's not always easy because, as many of us know, like language trauma, and people get embarrassed and they have insecurities about being able to use a language. And I think that's why it's so important for us to normalize using Te Reo Māori, so that people can hear it in those everyday spaces, like when you go to a cafe or when you go to the movies or when you're at the park, that you hear people conversing in Te Reo Māori. A friend of mine and I, she's here in Kylie, kia ora ihoa, we had lunch the other day, and the waiter could hear us speaking Te Reo Māori, and he just started speaking Te Reo Māori to us as part of the serving. And for her and I, it was a really cool experience because it's not something that happens all the time, that suddenly the person starts speaking your language with you as well. And it was such a great experience for both her and I. And it made what was quite a hard day for her and I, because we'd had quite a hard day, it turned the day around for us to have that experience with our waiter. And I don't think that I don't think there are a lot of people that understand the impact of those things happening. So yeah, being able to normalize using the language helps people like that might have those insecurities rather, to, oh, actually it's a normal thing. There's people all around here that are speaking Te Reo Māori, then I can do it as well. Yeah, I hope that answered your question.
Yes, wonderful, wonderful, wonderful. Yes, my last, maybe this could be a question. Do their children receive the language in the classroom?
I don't know if we've got time to answer that question. It's a mixed bag, to be honest. Our current government is not great, for lack of better words or more appropriate words for this situation. The last thing I saw in the news last week is that they've gone back 20 years in the progress that Māori and the Crown have made together, because they're reversing a lot of things that people have been working really hard to improve for Māori people here in New Zealand. And so you can learn Te Reo Māori in some schools. There are some schools that are called kura kaupapa, and they're 100% immersion in Te Reo Māori, but there's not many of them. Here in Christchurch, we only have 2, I believe, and then there's a few that are that offer bilingual learning. But I would say, like on average, most schools, it's an optional thing to learn, not a compulsory thing, which is what we would really like to see. Even just the basics being compulsory would be make a huge difference. Yeah, so the short answer is no.
Thank
but
you very much.
sometimes.
Thank you very much. Wonderful.
No worries.
I'm glad to hear about that too, because every one of us here in different countries, in Nicaragua, we have the same problem. But that is something we have to be struggling to be working together and with communities leaders, and we have to be close to parents also, because they're who had been working with language,
Yeah.
Nice. Thank you very much.
No worries.
All right, we've got time for some other questions. If anybody would like to drop them in the chat or raise your hand. But actually, Tarryn, in the meantime, I do have a question of my own. This comes up a lot, I think, with sort of community organizations for language work. To incorporate or not to incorporate, do you have any advice for folks who are at a decision point around whether they should become a recognized charitable organization and go through that whole process? What would you advise for folks?
Yeah, I would say yes. I mean, I don't know what the process is like in different countries, and I'm sure it can be wildly different to what it's like here. But one of the things that I was told when I was thankful, I'm really thankful for the advice. 2 people had said, oh, it's really hard to get charitable status. We sent our application in and they sent it back 6 times because we were missing certain things. And so we spent 6 months doing all of these things to make sure that we had everything. And I think our charitable status got approved within like 2 weeks of us sending in our application. But I think it's only because I was so like, I don't want this to become a huge big thing. So we worked really hard to make sure that we had all of the things in place to do it. But it's opened a lot of doors for us. So I would say it's been worth, like, it's been absolutely been worth the trouble of spending that 6 months writing the trust deed and getting board members and doing all of those things, because it's enabled us to apply for funding that we would otherwise not be able to apply for. And it also gives you a sense of legitimacy as well, I guess, so that, like, when you are wanting to collaborate with people, you're not just I'm not just some random single mum who loves Te Reo Māori. I actually am part of a charitable trust that is recognised as a legal entity, and you need to be trusted in order to even get to that point, to become a charitable trust. So yeah, I would say it's worth it.
Amazing, thank you.
No worries.
We do have some time for a few more questions. Oh gosh, okay, here's a tough one. How do you organize so many people now that you're at over 1,000 members?
Yeah. So we don't have 1,000 people coming along to all of the things, thankfully, because that would actually be a nightmare. But I would say the only thing, like, when we're organizing the parade for this year, obviously we would love all of our members to come because it's outside, and the council have now taken a huge amount of responsibility for it. So it means that I don't have to worry about doing all of the insurance and all of that scary stuff. But it's more about, I think, like, with having the over 1,000 people in the group, it's making sure that we are constantly offering different and new things at different times on different days, for people in different situations, whether that be in different financial situations, different speaking levels, working possibilities, location, for example. Even, like, I just was having a conversation last night about when we organise something at a pub, instantly there's a whole section of people that probably won't come because they've got children, or because they don't drink, or because it's too loud. So changing that setting from a pub to a cafe, for example, changes the audience of people. So it's not really that I have to think about how do I organize 1,000 people. It's just how do I have to think about catering to 1,000 people's likes and dislikes, and what they are able to do. So it's been a learning curve, and it's not always successful. Sometimes we plan things and people don't come, and that can be kind of disheartening. But we've just got to keep going and trying different things. And I think the other thing is going back to the community and saying, what is it that you want? Because I could say, like, I want to do this and I want to do that and organize all the things that I want to do. But if the community doesn't want to do them, then what's the point? So, I'm constantly trying to engage with people in our community to say, what is it that you want to do, and how can we help you do it?
Brilliant, thanks. And it looks like we have several very supportive comments in the chat. I really enjoyed your video, and maybe I can start my journey in Te Reo. Amazing. And then 2 what look like very positive comments in Te Reo. I'll leave those to you.
Yeah, thanks. I'll just, it's fine if no one's got any more questions. That's all good. But thank you so much to everybody that's come along today. If you are here in Ōtautahi and you want to connect, please just get in touch with me on the Facebook page or on our website. share the website around with people, come along to the events. Having people come to our events is the thing that that lifts me the most. So yeah, if you've got ideas, send them along. If you are in different parts of the world and want to talk also, I'm sure you can get my email from Anna or Amanda. Hello to all of the other facilitators from ELP. I saw a few of you in there, saw your names. I'd be really excited if my cousin started learning te reo Māori. That would be amazing, especially for your mokopuna. And mihi to Kylie again, because Kylie is one of our most consistent people that comes along and has become a dear friend of mine. So kia ora to you. And Merepeka, I'm going to reach out to you at some point because I want you to come along to help with something. So I think that's me. I'll hang around for a few more minutes if anyone else wants to kōrero. And thank you again, Anna, Amanda, and ELP for organising this for us.
Thank you so much, Tarryn. I think we may have one more question from Louise.
Yeah, kia ora, Tarryn. I'm actually trying to figure out how to get back into normal mode on Zoom. So I just wanted to say hi and beautiful kōrero, and I'll be in touch soon. So I don't know if you can see me, but I'm home now, sitting on my bench. Good, fabulous.
I can. I've got
and
your email.
You.
I need to email you.
Indeed, and thank you, organising crew. I've absolutely loved the listening on my ride home. Thank you.
Wonderful. Well, let's give Tarryn one big more round of applause, and thanks for being here and sharing today. This was wonderful. And when we send around the recording of this event, we will include the website, and everybody go check out this fantastic work. Thank you again, Tarryn. Thanks everybody for being here.